Hey, what's going on, guys? This is CJ here, back with another movie review, and this time I'm going to be talking about New Mutants. I was kind of sitting on this movie for a couple of days. I didn't go to the theaters to see this. I actually went to a drive-in theater to see this because I was not going to go to a movie theater to see this. COVID and everything that goes, and I saw a lot of outlets saying that they're not going to go to theaters to see this movie. Understandable, cool. I went to a drive-in theater. Fortunately, where I'm at in the DC area and stuff, there is a drive-in theater. Shout outs to the Alamo Draft House out in Ashburn. They have a drive-in theater that they did. It was, from what I can tell, it was a 1 week only affair. I saw this Friday. Um, so New Mutants ends up being a very just meh movie. You know, I had to let this movie kind of marinate for a bit because I didn't want to really attack this movie just like, oh, it's shit and saying all this stuff. Um it really represent the movie really to me represents everything about the Fox handling of the X-Men franchise. Like to me, at least for me, X-Men First Class was probably the best representation of the X-Men. Like you gave a shit about the characters. And it's not taking anything away from X1 and X2 or anything like that, but that's just me personally and stuff. I had no expectations per se when it came to New Mutants and stuff because by the time they mentioned New Mutants, I kind of was like whatever about Fox and the X Men franchise, and stuff. And one of the things that kind of bugged me a little bit was this whole concept of Josh Boone and them really emphasizing like, oh man, New Mutants is going to be based off the Demon Bear thing, Demon Bear, and this whole idea, and it's not just Fox that does this. A lot of other studios that's not Marvel, Disney do this, where they take a movie franchise, but then they want to do their own personal spin on it and make it like a genre and kind of walk away from the fantastical elements of the comic. And like I feel some sort of way, but at the same time, everybody buys this whole idea of like directors should be able to do what they want. All right, cool. The movie itself is just dull as fuck. I'm being blunt as I can. It's dull. At no point do you really care about these characters, which is a shame. Because if you know anything about New Mutants, if you know about these characters, you should care about them. But the problem is you don't care about them. The whole crux of the movie revolves around Danny Moonstar. Her village or town that she lives in gets destroyed, and this demon bear entity, well, it's a demon bear, obviously. It kills her father, and then she tries to run away from it, and she gets knocked out. Boom, she wakes up at this facility and stuff like that that's ran by Cecilia Reyes, and she's in there with Cannonball, Magic, Wolfsbane, and Sunspot, and they're having their little interactions. And during this whole period of time, Danny is trying to understand her powers and stuff, and the demon bear thing kind of comes into play. And just with that plot alone, the movie fundamentally doesn't get these characters. It likes the idea of the characters, but it doesn't get these characters and what makes them work. Like, great example is Magic. They like the concept of Magic as a character in terms of the visual cues of her busting out the magic sword and using her magic powers and stuff like that. But her character herself is not great. Like, they made her racist as shit early on in the movie for no reason. Like, that's not even the character. Like, if you're gonna make her out to be a dick, I guess fine, but then you make her racist on top of that. It's a strange decision and stuff. It's like, why? Um, and again, it's nothing against any of the actors and actresses that are in this film. They do what they can with the material that they're given, but you don't really get that sense of caring about what happens to him. We see Cannonball and him using his powers, but you don't really care about the character. You see Sunspot, and oh, he constantly mentions he's rich, and we see his powers, and it's like, cool, fine, I guess. Same with Wolfsbane, same with these characters. And again, the idea and the concept and stuff when they show the backstories of these characters, it's interesting, but they don't get you invested enough to care about it. And that's the movie in a nutshell. You don't care about the characters. You don't care about the overarching plot because it's so meh, you know. And this movie doesn't get the like I really feel the writers and Josh Boone really don't get these characters. They don't. And that's a shame because I see what he was going for. And like I said, he touted this movie as like, oh, it's a horror, young adult. It's like the Breakfast Club, and it's all these name dropping of other movies. And it's like, why are we name dropping other movies? Why can't this movie just be about New Mutants? Why? I felt that Josh was scared of the source material because again, I'm not one of those people that wants everything to be one for one, but like it felt like the movie was so scared of the source material. And when you do get the fantastical stuff with magic, especially, and yeah, we see Cannonball using his powers, and it's cool. You just end up not caring because you just wish that it leaned heavily on that fantastical of seeing them work as a team and doing all that stuff, and they don't. Um, and it's kind of weird because even for a movie that's supposed to be setting that supposedly was supposed to be setting up for another movie, I was just kind of sitting back like I would not even care for a sequel to this film. I really wouldn't. And that's the core of what the issue is and stuff. As much as the visual effects are okay for the film, I just don't care. And when I say they don't care about the characters, why do you have Cecilia Reyes working for Essex Corporation? This is a character that in the comics, she's a mutant that just wants to help people. She isn't there to like try to kill people or anything. And that kind of goes against the character. And, I mentioned Essex Corporation, they play a role because she works for them. Because if you watched X-Men Apocalypse, there was an after credit sequence where the Essex Corporation came in and got samples and all that stuff. And it's like, oh shit. And what I remember, they were supposed to play a part in the Gambit movie that didn't even happen. So now they play a part in this movie, and you start piecing together what they were trying to do, I guess, to set up for a sequel, and it just doesn't land for me, And again, it's nothing against the actors and actresses that are in the movie because, like I said, again, they do the job of what's asked of them, but I don't know. It's just I just didn't care, and again, it sucks because I had no expectations, so I really just kind of came out of this movie like I just don't care, and that's Fox in the X-Men franchise in a nutshell. It's movies that have been stuck in this period. Like if this movie came out during X1, when X1 and X2 came out, it would have went over well because it fit that sensibility of where we were as an audience when those films came out during that time period compared to now where, let's be real, we're spoiled by the MCU with how they've been able to craft movies that are enjoyable. Even at their lowest, when they have some weak movies, you still came away from it with a sense of like, all right, well, those movies were fine. They did their job. They were fun enough. I can probably watch it again and still get some enjoyment out of it. And New Mutants is kind of an example of the opposite of that, where you just kind of like walk away from it like, like, okay, sure, it exists. Fine, And it's really hard for me because again, the special effects are fine. They're nothing that's mind blowing and stuff. Again, the concept of how they use them is cool, but the execution of it just leaves a lot to be desired. And like I said, that's the movie in a nutshell. It leaves much to be desired. Um, and then, like I said, I don't have hate for it compared to how I had hate for X-Men Apocalypse, but I'm not really necessarily jonesing for a sequel or demand they put a sequel or anything because it's just the movie really didn't do a good enough job to really earn that like praise that it wants audiences to have, but for a movie delayed that it was delayed, it is what it is. What are you gonna do? So I give it a 5 out of 10. It's very middle of the road. I really don't care. Like I said, I watched it because I was just, I was curious and I said, fuck it, why not? Let's check it out. And it's just I kind of came away from it just kind of like the weebay shrug, so to speak. So 5 out of 10. Watch it if you want, but I wouldn't recommend going out your way to see it and stuff. I would just kind of sit on it and just wait and watch it later or something like that. But I wouldn't recommend going out your way to try to find a theater or even risk going to a movie theater to see this film, because to me personally it's not worth it and stuff. And again, nothing against the people that were playing these roles and stuff. It's just I just don't think the movie really earned itself of any praise that it could have had. And I'm not even going to bring up the issues of how they casted these people and stuff, especially when it comes to Sunspot. I think it was stupid of them, because even for the director to sit there and push this emphasis of Sunspot and the whole thing of he seems like the guy that looks like or somebody that's rich and he had a silver spoon. The movie just lip serviced that more than actually showing his struggle, so to speak. Like, and even when you get the backstory on Sunspot and stuff, it's like, all right, cool, I guess. I don't care. So yeah, that's pretty much New Mutants in a nutshell. You don't care about the story despite the potential that it could have been. And I think maybe in a better director's hands and writers that understand these characters, you could have gotten a good film, but it just ends up being just meh. And to me, when you're kind of running away from the material instead of working with it, this is what you get. So 5 out of 10. I honestly wouldn't recommend seeing it. So at any rate, 5 out of 10. See you later. Peace.